Thank you for tuning in to LeadDeveloper.com, where we simplify complex property development feasibilities, investment analysis, and everything real estate. Whether you're a seasoned pro or just starting out, our Google Sheets-based feasibility suite streamlines the toughest aspects of real estate. Lead Developer Feasibility Suite is trusted by thousands in over 17 countries. Our tools cover everything from quick assessments to detailed cash flow projections and more. Sign up today at LeadDeveloper.com for unlimited free access to our expanding library of real estate tools. No credit card needed. Plus, get full support through Edge with step-by-step guidance, exclusive courses, and resources designed for your success. Turn numbers into narratives that win over investors and lenders. Join Lead Developer now.
Yeah. Ever looked up at those giant apartment buildings and thought, I wonder what goes into making those things?
Well, you're in the right place.
You're going deep on apartment development, the whole thing. Yeah.
Like, everything, right?
Yeah, everything. From like the different types of apartments, like why are there so many of them?
Yeah.
To the challenges developers face. How do you make it in this market?
Right.
We're working from a beginner's guide to apartment development. And by the time we're done with this deep dive, you're going to know a lot about this really complex world, whether you're just, curious about it,
right,
or maybe even dipping your toes into the development game yourself.
Yeah, I think it's one of the things I find most fascinating about apartment development is just how much it reflects larger trends. Like, it's not just about construction, it's about understanding how people's lifestyles are changing and how economic forces and even government policies are shaping the places we live in.
It's like a puzzle, like all these pieces.
Yeah.
So I guess starting with the basics, I mean, when we talk about apartment complexes, how do we even categorize them? What are the main...
Well, one way to categorize them is by height. You've got low rise, which are typically 2 to 3 stories. They typically don't have elevators. You find a lot of these in the suburbs where there's more space. Density regulations are less strict.
Yeah. You don't need an elevator if you only got to walk up a couple flights.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And then you've got mid-rise. So these are 3 to 8 stories. And these usually have elevators. They're more common, closer to city centers or transit hubs where land is a little bit more of a premium and people rely more on public transport.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
And then I guess the ones that dominate the skyline, high rises.
Yeah.
8 stories or more. And those are the ones that got everything from, your tiny studio apartment to the fancy penthouse you see in movies, right?
Yeah. The high rises, those are all about maximizing density, usually in central business districts where land is the most expensive.
Right.
And parking is extremely limited. So you can think of them as like vertical cities.
That makes sense. But what always blows my mind is just the variety of apartments within these complexes.
Yeah.
It's not just like a bunch of the same boxes.
Yeah,
right?
no. You've got...
like, what are all the different...
You've got, well, first you got your penthouses that take up a whole top floor, right?
Yeah.
You got your luxury apartments with multiple bedrooms, multiple bathrooms, family-size units for growing households.
Right.
And then, the smaller 1 bedrooms, 2 bedrooms for couples and singles. And of course, you can't forget about the studio apartments for individuals who are really prioritizing location over square footage.
It's amazing how they tailor the mix, to the needs of the particular neighborhood. But parking's got to be a huge consideration.
Huge consideration.
You've got all these different, residents and...
Yeah. Parking is definitely a huge factor, and it's influenced by both local council requirements and just what the market demands,
Right.
So if you're developing in an area that doesn't have great public transportation, well, you're probably going to need to provide more parking spaces per unit. But if you're in a city with a really excellent public transit, well, you might be able to get away with less parking and just really emphasize that easy access to buses and trains. So it's all about understanding the lifestyle and needs of your target market.
So it's a balancing act.
Yeah.
Now let's talk about this apartment boom. I mean, everyone I feel like is talking about apartment living. Why are apartments so popular these days?
Yeah, there's a lot of reasons. I think one thing is, smaller households, people are working longer hours. There's this growing desire to live in walkable neighborhoods with, restaurants and shops and
right.
entertainment.
Convenience, community.
Yeah, exactly. Convenience and community are becoming maybe even just as important as having, a big yard.
So it's not just about like pure affordability. It's
Yeah.
like it's a change in like what people want
Yeah,
in their lives.
exactly.
Yeah.
But affordability does play a role. In a lot of cities, apartments provide more options and different price ranges,
Mm-hmm.
Smaller units help keep costs down.
Right. Right.
And then there's the investment angle. A lot of investors see a growing rental market, potential tax benefits, a possibility of capital gains.
Right. Right.
So it makes apartment buildings look like a pretty attractive investment.
And then the government policies, right?
Yeah.
I mean, they're all about.
Absolutely. A lot of governments are encouraging higher density housing to, deal with rising land costs, infrastructure needs,
Yeah.
concerns about, urban sprawl.
Right.
So it's all about creating more sustainable and efficient cities.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
But I'm sure it's not all sunshine and roses for developers.
Yeah.
What are like the downsides? What are the challenges they face in developing these?
Well, one of the biggest risks is just market miscalculation,
Yeah, yeah.
You build the wrong types of units in the wrong location,
Yeah.
could lead to empty apartments and financial losses.
Competition must be fierce too.
Oh, yeah, fierce. Developers need to find ways to stand out and attract renters in a crowded market.
Especially, desirable areas, I imagine.
Yeah, exactly. Another big hurdle is just securing funding,
Yeah.
which can be really tough, especially for, new developers who haven't really proven themselves yet.
Yeah, I imagine banks aren't like lining up to give you millions of dollars
No, not really.
without some guarantee.
You got to have some skin in the game.
Yeah.
And then you also got to deal with, community resistance. Not everybody is thrilled about a large apartment development popping up in their backyard.
Right.
Right.
And then also just navigating, complex regulatory hurdles, getting through zoning laws, building codes. It can be a real bureaucratic maze.
Sounds like it's high stakes, a lot of moving parts.
It is.
What are some of the other challenges that they face? What really does it take to succeed in this market?
Well, so welcome back.
Yeah.
To our deep dive into apartment development.
Yeah.
We've talked about all kinds of apartments, what people want these days,
Yeah.
some of the problems developers face,
The challenges, yeah.
challenges. But now let's get into the fun part, the design choices that can, really make or break an apartment building.
Yeah, that's what I always kind of wonder, like, how do they even decide, like,
Right.
what to build and where? Like, is there a science to this, or is this...
There's a science to it.
Our source, Beginner's Guide to Apartment Development, breaks down some key design and planning considerations. And one of the first things developers look at is this thing called the usable plot ratio.
Usable plot ratio. Okay.
Basically it boils down to how much livable space can you actually squeeze out of
Got it.
Yeah.
The piece of land you have.
the land that you have. Yeah.
Yeah.
So let's say you're a developer, right?
Okay.
And you've got a 1,000 square meter plot of land.
Okay.
What does that mean for you in terms of usable space?
Okay. Yeah.
So let's just say, for the sake of argument, the plot ratio for that area is 2,
Okay.
which means you could build potentially 2,000 square meters of living space.
Okay.
But here's the thing. That doesn't include hallways, stairs, elevators, balconies. All that stuff eats into your total area.
Oh, got it. So it's not just like, times 2.
Yeah.
Okay. I get it.
Yeah, it's not that simple. And then you got to think about parking,
Right.
which can be a real headache,
Yeah.
In some areas, you might be required to provide at least one parking spot per unit,
Yeah.
Even if it's not legally required, it might just be what the market demands. So if you're in a really dense city, that could mean building multi-level parking garages, which take up even more of that valuable space.
Yeah.
So,
It's a balancing act.
it's a real balancing act. Okay, so let's talk about the look of the building, right?
Yeah.
Outside, like, first impressions are everything.
Absolutely. You want something that's going to be attractive, something that's going to stand out from the competition,
Right.
something that complements the surrounding neighborhood. Think of it as a curb appeal, but on a grand scale.
Yeah. Okay, so no cookie cutter design.
No cookie cutter designs, not if you want to attract buyers,
Right.
and command higher prices.
Yeah. But also, I bet durability is a big a big concern, right?
Easy to maintain these massive buildings.
Yeah. Developers, they really favor materials that are, that can withstand the elements, that are easy to clean, because that really minimizes those long-term maintenance costs.
That makes sense. Okay, so let's go inside now to the apartments themselves.
Yeah.
How do they figure out, like, what size, like...
Yeah, how many studios?
Yeah, how many studios, how many 1 bedrooms, 2 bedrooms? How do they decide that?
All comes down to knowing your target market. So if you're building in an area that's popular with young professionals or students, well, you might prioritize smaller, more affordable units like studios and 1 bedroom.
But if you're going for families, you want bigger, more bedrooms.
Exactly. And what's interesting is our source mentions that there's kind of a trend away from those those big 3-bedroom apartments and more towards more compact 2 bedrooms and 1 bedrooms. It seems like space efficiency is just becoming more and more important.
I can see that. The smaller ones are more affordable, appeal to more people.
Yeah.
Potentially. Speaking of affordability, what about energy efficiency?
Oh, yeah.
That's got to be a huge selling point these days.
A huge selling point with rising energy costs. Developers are, incorporating things like solar panels, better insulation, energy efficient appliances to lower those utility bills and just appeal to, environmentally conscious renters.
It's a win-win.
Yeah.
Now, this is something that's always on my mind when I think about apartment living. Security.
Yeah.
I mean, it can be a concern, right?
Yeah, no, you're right to be concerned, especially in larger buildings with, multiple entry points and shared spaces like parking garages and lobbies. So, security is paramount.
Yeah. So what are some of the measures they're taking? I mean, like, how are they addressing this?
They're implementing all kinds of things like electronic key systems, with video or voice access, CCTV cameras, even security personnel.
Wow.
Patrolling the building.
So they're really stepping up their game.
Yeah.
Okay, that's good to know. But what about noise?
Yeah.
I mean, you're right next to your neighbors a lot of times. So how do they stop? How do they deal with noise,
That's a major design consideration.
Yeah.
They use a lot of soundproofing materials in the walls, the floors. They think about, how to place units to minimize noise transfer.
Right.
Sometimes they even install double glazed windows.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. So it's all about trying to create a peaceful living environment.
Exactly.
What about privacy? I mean, that kind of goes hand in hand with the noise thing, I guess.
Yeah.
How do you make sure people feel like they have their own space?
That's tricky. Yeah.
But there are ways to design for privacy. One is just thinking carefully about where you place windows and balconies so they're not overlooking neighboring
Got it.
units.
Okay.
Privacy screens.
Yeah.
Opaque glazing, that can help.
So it's just about being thoughtful with the choices you make.
Yeah.
Speaking of balconies, it seems like everybody wants a balcony these days, especially if you live in the city.
Yeah, they're really popular. They provide that much needed, private outdoor space. Our source says that developers should aim for a minimum size to make them truly functional.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
You got to have enough room for a table and chairs, maybe some plants, a small grill, maybe.
Yeah, like a little oasis.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Extending that living space outdoors.
Now let's talk about the spaces we don't always think about. The lobbies, the hallways. Yeah. I mean, those are still important, right?
They're important. They need to be well lit, well ventilated, ideally have some natural light.
Right. Create a welcoming and inviting atmosphere.
Nobody wants to go into a dingy hallway.
Oh.
Okay, so now let's talk about all the extras that make apartment living so great. The amenities. The amenities, yeah. All the
swimming pools, the gyms, the rooftop gardens.
Yeah. Co-working spaces, I've seen that.
Yeah.
Even pet grooming stations.
Pet grooming stations, it's all there.
Wow, it's like its own little world. It's not just a place to sleep anymore.
No, it's a lifestyle. But our source does say, be careful about going overboard with amenities.
Okay.
Because they can be expensive to build and maintain, and ultimately those costs get passed on to the residents in the form of higher rents or fees.
Right. So it's a balancing act.
Yeah, finding that sweet spot.
Okay. So what about what makes an apartment building stand out?
Yeah, what makes it special?
Yeah, special. Like, yeah.
What creates that,
Yeah.
that sense of exclusivity?
Yeah.
Well, it could be something like, a distinctive architectural style,
Okay.
breathtaking views,
Yeah.
top-of-the-line appliances. It could even be just a really strong sense of community,
Yeah.
and belonging.
So it's more than just like the bricks and mortar.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's creating a place where people are proud to call home. And then there are all those little details, that can make a big difference. Things like easy to clean windows.
Oh, yeah.
Soundproofing between units, well-designed storage spaces.
Yeah.
It's all about anticipating the needs of residents and just going that extra mile to create a comfortable and enjoyable.
Yeah. So the big picture and the little picture.
Yeah.
Both.
You got to think about both.
You got to think about both.
Okay.
So we've covered a lot when it comes to, design and planning.
Yeah.
But there's still more to explore. So in the final part of our deep dive, we're going to delve into the really crucial development principles, the steps involved in actually bringing these projects to life, from site selection to financing and construction.
Okay, so we've seen how they design these buildings, how they try to make them livable and nice for people, but now let's talk about how they actually make it happen, the actual development.
Yeah. This is where the rubber meets the road.
Yeah.
It's one thing to have a vision, but actually turning that vision into a real building, takes careful planning. It takes financial savvy. It takes a whole lot of expertise.
So I guess starting at the very beginning, like finding the right piece of land, it can't just be any old empty lot, right? No, you're absolutely right. Our source, A Beginner's Guide to Apartment Development, really emphasizes the importance of thorough due diligence when it comes to site selection. And one of the things developers use is this process called residual land analysis to figure out if a site is even financially viable.
Okay, residual land analysis. Break that down for me. What is that?
So it's basically, it all comes down to crunching the numbers. Developers, they estimate how many units they can build on a site, what those units might sell or rent for, and then they factor in all the costs, right? Construction, professional fees, marketing, financing, and of course, their desired profit margin.
Right.
So if the numbers don't add up, well, they just move on to a different site.
So it's like a big cost-benefit analysis for the whole thing.
Yeah, exactly. But it's not just about the financials. You also have to assess the site's physical characteristics.
Yeah.
Things like accessibility, soil conditions, utility costs, any potential environmental issues. These things can really make or break a project.
So you're looking for the sweet spot.
The sweet spot,
A place that's, you can make money, but there's not a ton of problems.
Yeah, you don't want any hidden problems.
No.
And once a potential site is identified, then the real digging begins. And they start to look at things like vehicular access. You know, can delivery trucks get in and out easily?
Right.
What about waste collection or emergency vehicles? These are things that, you might not think about, but they're crucial for the smooth operation of the building.
Yeah. You don't want to forget about that stuff.
No. And then there's soil conditions. If the land was previously used for, industrial purposes, there might be some contamination that needs to be remediated, which can be a very, very costly and time-consuming process.
Oh wow! And then even just like if it's on a hill or something, that's gotta matter. Right?
Yeah, the topography of the site. A steep slope could pose some real challenges for construction. Although sometimes a sloping site can actually be an advantage because you can use those lower levels for parking.
Oh, okay.
Tucked neatly beneath the residential structure.
Smart. I bet the utilities are a big thing too, like how much they cost.
Oh yeah. The further a site is from existing infrastructure, the more expensive it's going to be to connect to water, sewer, electricity, gas lines.
Right. That's all those hidden costs.
Hidden costs, yeah.
Right.
So once you've found that perfect piece of land, then it's time to assemble what our source calls the dream team. You need architects, you need engineers, lawyers, financial advisors.
Oh, wow.
Marketing experts, and of course, experienced construction professionals.
So it takes a lot of people to make this happen.
It takes a village to raise an apartment building. That's right. And our source really stresses the importance of choosing team members who are who are not only, experts in their fields, but also have a solid track record, and are financially stable.
Right.
You want people who are invested in the project's success.
Yeah, they're not just like...
Not just hired guns, yeah. And then, before that first shovel hits the ground, there's this thing called a pre-feasibility study.
Pre-feasibility study.
And this is really, really important because it's like a test run for the whole project. It's this detailed analysis of all the costs, potential revenue, what are the market conditions, what are the regulatory requirements, and it helps developers identify, potential roadblocks and develop contingency plans before they commit significant resources.
It's like a dress rehearsal.
It's a dress rehearsal.
You want to catch the problems early.
You want to catch them early, that's right. And one of the things they look at during this stage is what they call location-specific expenses. So these are things like zoning and building codes, environmental regulations, infrastructure improvements, waste disposal requirements, elevator maintenance costs, fire safety systems, and even things like occupancy permits and business licenses. These things can vary a lot depending on where you're building. Yeah,
it's amazing all the stuff that they have to, think about ahead of time.
It's a lot. And then they also do detailed cash flow projections. They have to anticipate, potential fluctuations in the market, construction delays, and those unexpected expenses that always seem to pop up.
So like plan for the best, but prepare for the worst type of thing.
Exactly, yeah. Now let's talk about the elephant in the room. Financing.
Yeah, I mean, these are huge projects.
They're huge, and financing is a complex beast. Traditional bank loans are one option, but banks typically require a significant amount of pre-sales before they'll release the the funds. They want to see that there's strong demand for the units before they take on the risk.
So they got to go out and get people to sign on the dotted line before they can even get the money to build it.
That's right, yeah. Another option is mezzanine financing, which is a type of debt that sits between senior debt and equity. It can be a more flexible option, but it usually comes with higher interest rates and upfront costs.
So you get more flexibility, but you pay for it.
You pay for it, yeah.
Yeah.
There are also, specialized financing and insurance companies that actually underwrite that pre-sale requirement. So they guarantee a certain percentage of pre-sales, which makes it easier for developers to secure those traditional bank loans.
Oh, so it's like an insurance policy for the developer.
It is, yeah.
It reduces their risk.
So that makes the bank more comfortable giving them the money.
Exactly, yeah. So once financing is secured, then the next step is choosing the right architect and builder. Mm-hmm. You want to find reputable and experienced professionals with a strong track record for quality construction.
Right.
Because, shoddy workmanship that can really damage a developer's reputation, can lead to, costly repairs down the line.
Yeah, yeah. And you got to make sure, during the construction, they're keeping an eye on everything, making sure it's all good.
Quality control, yeah.
Quality control, right. Huge, especially during those finishing stages. Mm-hmm. It's all about delivering a high quality product that meets or exceeds the expectations of buyers.
Speaking of buyers, you gotta market this.
You gotta market, yeah. You could build the most amazing apartment building in the world, but if nobody knows about it, you're not going to sell any units.
Right.
So developers, they often engage these specialized project marketers who really understand the target audience,
right,
and can create effective campaigns that generate buzz and excitement. And it's not just about putting up a billboard or running a few ads. It's about crafting a compelling story that really resonates with potential buyers.
Right. So I imagine that involves a lot of online stuff now too.
Oh yeah. It's about reaching the right people with the right message at the right time, using a mix of, social media, email marketing, traditional advertising, and even community events and open houses.
So it's a whole other side of the thing.
It is. It's a lot, but
and it sounds like it's really a really interesting field.
It is, yeah. It's a lot of moving pieces.
You got to get the financing, you got to get the design, you got to get the construction, then you got to get the marketing, you got to get it all together.
It's a complex dance, but it's also very rewarding. you know?
Yeah.
It's about transforming a vision into reality, you know?
Oh, yeah.
It's about creating homes for people.
It's true. It's true.
It's about shaping the fabric of our cities.
Well, it's been fascinating. I mean, I know I'm going to look at apartment buildings differently now.
I'm glad you found it insightful.
Yeah.
You know, it's really a testament to the hard work and dedication of countless professionals who bring these projects to life.
And to our listeners, thanks for joining us on this deep dive. We hope you found it interesting and learned some new stuff. And until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep diving deep.